Guys, what's a good sign that a woman is just using you? I was dating a girl who said she was too busy to go on a date on Saturday, and that she was only free on Tuesdays. She also said that she wanted to date other guys while dating me. She later admitted that she was cycling boyfriends through the week for free food. I dropped her like a bag of moldy tangerines. Pretty much the same as when any person is just using you. The relationship feels unbalanced and unequal, with you giving more than you are receiving. In a good relationship, friendship, whatever, both people are giving what they want to give without coercion and both feel adequately rewarded for it. Sometimes one person needs more, sometimes the other, but it evens out over time. When you feel like you're being coerced into giving more than you really want, whether that's with force or emotional manipulation or whatever, you're being used and you'll eventually resent it. Oh, I can answer this one. When asking you for something, time/money/physical effort, if you say yes, she will almost always and immediately look for something else to ask you for that is related. Like, can you stop and pick up those hair things for me? I say yes. Okay, can you also stop by the shop next door and get me that thing I like? This kind of things isn't a big deal on occasion, but when it's a repeating pattern, it's a red flag. She will point out how much she fucks you and how it's for you. Will treat most of your interests with disdain or indifference. Doesn't ever really care what you have to say. When you attempt to point out any inequality in the relationship, she will get extremely defensive and attack you for being selfish, and tell you need to be more supportive/giving/a real man. Girl is using my body and he doesn't see it. She only reaches out to him when she's single. Nothing ever comes of it as she will find excuse after excuse to not actually meet up. Then, when she gets a new boyfriend, she ghosts him unless something goes wrong and she needs a shoulder to cry on. Guys, if she only reaches out to you when she's hurt or vulnerable, she doesn't want you, she wants sympathy and knows you'll give it to her. Edit. And to be clear, this isn't an exclusively girl thing to do. Guys can be guilty of this too. Edit too. And if you were in this situation and hung on only because you thought you'd get sex, relationship out of it, that's nice guy. Incel behavior. If you hang around for a reason that isn't I genuinely care about this person in a non-romantic context, and would keep doing this if there was no sexual, romantic desire, then that isn't you being the good guy. You don't want them. You want the idea of them that you've built in your head. It's possible you're both wrong. When she flirts with you all the time, and also everyone else, and asks you to come over to do complex electrical work and says she'll take you out to dinner, and you agree because you like the work and like being around her, but she brings her kids along and ignores you the entire time. Then when you're not around her, she never texts or calls and just waves at you when you pass her at work every day, making no effort to talk to you whatsoever. And when you try to talk to her, she gives you short answers like yeah, fuck you Liz. I'm not a man, but I've known too many not so great women and have had guy friends used by women, so I think I can chime in here a little. She never wants to listen to your complaints, but that's all she does herself. She asks about your bank account and your job often and says she's just wondering. She gets unreasonably mad when you forget a holiday. She makes deals with you using her body. If you buy me this, I'll suck your dick in the car. She lies constantly about her own financial situation or personal relationships. She always wants to hang out with a specific friend of yours. She doesn't thank you for things, but rather expects them. She manipulates you by threatening to withhold sex until she gets her way. She only says I love you when you give her something or do something for her. She never pays for anything herself. She guilt trips the life out of you. She is unreasonably, explosively defensive when you voice your concerns regarding the relationship. If your girls is doing any of these, find a new girl. If you and your partner do this for mutual, well-intended fun, then there's of course no problem. It's when one person uses it specifically to get what they want, as a manipulation tool, that I find it to be a serious issue. You should never have to earn sex, unless that's a DS thing that you've both discussed and consented to beforehand. If this thought ever pops in your head, that's already a sign. I don't think a healthy friendship should ever have this thought popping up in the very first place. Rose-tinted glasses are a very real thing and will make you stay in a bad relationship even though the flags are very obvious. I only hope those who are reading this thread can be brave enough to leave for your own good. Some clearer signs: lack of two-way communication. Only her issues matter, yours doesn't. Similarly, if you're the only one starting conversations but she doesn't, but still keeps you around, start running. She only looks for you when she's in trouble, needs a shoulder, having a bad time. A healthy relationship should share the good times as much as the bad times. Your worth to her is measured by the material things you can bring to the relationship. If you feel like once you stop investing money, time and you would lose her, stop whatever you are doing immediately and find a better person. Not a guy, but am a bi woman. Unironically, think of a pickup artist and how they see women, objects of desire to be captured and kept by any means necessary. Some women do that shit too, and they use the same tactics. One, they will be fairly quick to get angry or upset with you. Small things will be made into big problems, and you'll be put down for them. 2, they will swing wildly between treating you well and treating you like shit. Their actions are there to promote a transactional relationship. You got to treat him well sometimes so he keeps coming back. 3, they will use their pain against you, making you feel like shit. Often they will make you feel bad for them or feel guilty. The goal is to make the guy sympathize with them as well as show vulnerability. For example, the guy might catch himself thinking she's going through a rough time and everything will be better soon. 4, gaslighting. They'll just lie to you, even if you have proof. It will usually start small and escalate to bigger things. They want the dude to question his reality and be more open to manipulation. 5, isolation. They'll try to isolate guys from friends, hobbies, and family if they can get away with it. If said girl is the only person they have, they'll stay even when things get really bad. Not every girl who uses people will do every one of these things, but if you stay long enough you'll see them more and more. It might also escalate to domestic assault as well. Sadly, a lot of men don't have a lot of emotional intelligence due to the bullshit stereotypes forced on them. Things like, boys shouldn't cry, don't be a quitter, strive to be the bigger man, and don't talk about your emotions, can make men easier to manipulate, on top of promoting really bad mental health strategies. Just like how pickup artists will take advantage of vulnerable women, predatory women will take advantage of vulnerable or gullible men. Prior to reading this thread, I've had my suspicions about myself but I'd easily ignore them. Now I'm almost certain that I'm the one who's using her and perhaps even pretty toxic. How does one change that sort of thing about himself? In my mid-20s now and over the years I've noticed a lot of narcissistic traits in myself that I suspect to have picked up from my mother. Is being a good person always just going to be a facade? Edit. I figured this would get buried and I'd just end up deleting it. Not a fan of putting myself out there even if it's relatively anonymous like Reddit, but I've gotten a ton of positive feedback and I'll definitely be looking into options for therapy. I appreciate everyone who took the time to constructively respond. Thank you. Smile. If all of the problems you have in your relationship all of a sudden become your problem. Recently got out of a relationship with someone who I thought I was gonna marry someday, but then little things like me saying I just wish once in a while you'd make sacrifices in your schedule for me like I do for you, and I'd always hear I never asked you to do that for me, so that's your problem. I have a friend who comes to me for advice all the time. talk about the jobs she is getting and so on. She would also tell me just random things. She never says hi, how are you, or likes or posts comments on my posts. Then weeks or months later she tells me she is either quitting that new job or getting fired. I stopped giving her advice and she still gets fired or quits the job. I feel awful for this and didn't realize it until after the relationship, but I totally used the shit out of my ex-boyfriend and want to share some things I now recognize I did that could serve as a warning for others. I did not want to have sex with him, ever. I made zero effort to look attractive when with him. I never asked about his day. I didn't say thank you when I should have. I just ended a friendship with someone I later found out was using me for emotion support until she could replace her boyfriend. Signs I missed. When we first hung out she made giant gestures of friendship and told me she wanted to be my best friend and promised to always be there and support me. She would threaten to end the friendship if I didn't always pick up the phone. She would complain about all of her friends, and even the ones that left or rotated out would never be her fault. She told everyone's secrets to me, and would show me their text messages and make fun of them to me, assumed she did the same to me. She only appeared in my life when things with her current boyfriend were going bad and we would talk for hours about how much she felt abused. Anytime something bad happened in my life, her only response was, "Aw, I'm sorry." That's it. And when I told her that isn't good support, she threatened to end the friendship. She actively told me of every time she has a boyfriend she gets bored, makes them continue paying her rent, and then once she finds a new boyfriend, ends it and moves him in within the next week. She had levels of friendships, and if you weren't perfect, she would demote you. She had a rotating cast of people who were always her new best friend. She never had voicemail or texting set up and always used extra apps, and her only male friends she kept at a distance became future boyfriends. She would spill her boyfriend's secrets and devalue him as a person. Once she tried to convince me he was worthless as a person because he didn't feed the cats correctly when he was hungover. She would often go through his phone and then send me pictures of messages to other girls trying to prove he was cheating on her. Whenever I brought any misunderstanding or problem up, it was always my fault. She asked me to tell her when I felt used, and when I did, I was attacked on a personal level, and she threatened to end the friendship, telling me how dare I not see how it hurts her and that she is a good friend. I suppose my overall point is a lack of loyalty to those she loved, only being around when she was in need of support but offering excuses or bad support back, seeing the used people, giant promises right off the bat, devaluing people, a lack of support are all the signs that someone is using you, and a refusal to work on issues without threats. Dated a girl for a little over a year who refused to do anything I wanted to do but expected me to do everything she wanted to do. So that, like, I hate board games but put up with them because she was into them and I wanted to do things she enjoyed. But anytime I recommended we do something I enjoy, taking a walk after eating, she would just say I don't get any enjoyment out of doing that. She then proceeded to cheat on me via Craigslist. Pretty much all the same signs a man is using a woman, reaches out at their convenience only, never really asks you about yourself yet unloads all about themselves on you, doesn't pay attention when you are talking to them, on their phone, looking around, comes up with an excuse every time you initiate wanting to meet up and not the other way around, etc. The only time she ever wants to hang out, after like the 3rd-4th date, is to go get lunch, dinner. If she never wants to spend casual time with you, just getting a coffee, going for a walk in the public park, doing a social activity that takes a lot longer than just an hour-long dinner, then she is most likely just using you for free food. Don't let a woman/girl/boy/man text you sparingly, and always say we should go get dinner, but never want to spend any real time together. When you text her, and she either ignores the text or replies with 1 or 2 word answers, but then when she wants something, she will be super responsive and detailed in her replies. This is often combined with them always being too busy to hang out when you ask, but they will mention they are free to hang out with you on next day while asking you for something. You meet on Tinder, soaks up your compliments, plays the poor me, my landlord won't fix anything, but you know how, and like to be helpful, will talk to you for years, and even throw you a bone once every few months to keep you on standby, but cancels out meetups 14-15 times. She's using you to boost her up when she needs it. That's a parasite, that's not worth the time. There's a woman that I work with, very intelligent, very good at her job, not especially motivated to go above and beyond. Can't really blame her given the environment we work in. She was hired about a year after I was, straight out of school. She's a few years younger than me. I immediately took to her because of her intelligence, and she was always very upfront and eager to learn new things. I can admit, I have a thing for her, that is very clearly not reciprocated, which is fine. She gets stressed easily, so I try to keep her stress level down, take extra tasks on so she, and everyone else too, doesn't need to worry about them, make sure the equipment she needs is good to go, etc. She's not necessarily aware I do this, or at least isn't aware of the extent or the reasons behind it. There are some tasks where people are assigned to take care of them in pairs, and we were recently paired up for one. Now, we also just recently had a bit of a friction between us, and so someone asked her, unaware I could hear them, if being paired up was going to cause an issue. Her response was, "No, it's fine. At least I won't have to do much." That was a pretty good sign. Not gender specific, and using you can mean something else than money, but not being willing to grant time, attention, curiosity to someone else unless he or she gets what he or she thinks he or she needs or deserve. Applicable during seduction too. Let's say you make efforts in whatever way but you feel the other person doesn't. It's a sign of an immature person at best, and a toxic person at worst. Sorry for approximative English. This is why after separating from my ex of 21 years, I'm perfectly fine being alone. I'm not going to be prey or fill someone's sidekick role as a continuous ATM machine. You want a relationship? You're going to prove it. I lost a lot of respect for women after I separated and saw the dating pool. What restaurant are you going to take me to? If it's nice enough, I'll make it worth your while. How about liking me for me and wanting to see me happy and you being the cause? Female here. You're in the friend with no benefits zone, excluding for religious reasons. I knew women, almost always very good-looking ones, who used the huge amount of attention they got from men to their advantage, whether it was monetary, free emotional therapy, car repair, jobs, getting out of legal trouble, free handyman services, and of course the Meals on Wheels program young men set up for certain young women. This is the advice I gave my handsome, smart, and successful son: only date a little above your pay grade, leave the full of herself princess kiss my ass to the prince kiss my ass. And no, not every gal is like that, okay guys? Yes. When she says she's not interested in dating but still acts very flirty. I had a female coworker do this to me in my early 20s, new 45, but I was naive, and it wasn't until later in life I realized what was going on. You see, she was going to college and already was engaged fairly young by modern standards, but things were bad between them because the guy was a major horn dog and distant. I'd discover later, I was a pretty big dude back then and in shape too after serving in the military, so she was basically trying to make her fiancé jealous, but being quite a bit smaller than me meant he wouldn't get confrontational. I just thought she was wanting to be friends and just really flirty, but not in a seal the deal kind of way, but nope. She was straight up using me to try to make the guy jealous and therefore reel him in. Somehow worked about as well as you might think. The guy was banging her friends anyway. They broke up and he was moving in with one of her good friends a couple days later. As a side bonus, he was a certified masseuse. Yikes.